on the Department of Lands and Natural Resources FY22 budget. I welcome our guest, Secretary Beneventi, and members of your staff. Before we begin, just dispense some of formalities. I'd like to begin by introducing members of the Ways and Means Committee who are present today. On my left is Congressman Probes. On his left, Congresswoman Pabalta. She's also the chairwoman for Natural Resources. Uh, on her left is Mr. Congressman Lizama. On his left, we have Congresswoman Selena Babalta. On her left is Congresswoman Leila Staffler. And moving on to my right, we have Congressman Vicente Camacho. And on his right is Congresswoman Denita Yangitmay. We're also joined here by several staff members, our legal counsel Joe Tyrone, our senior legal assistant Ms. Claire Sablan, Sergeant at Arms Dennis Regis, and our fiscal analyst Mr. Thomas Rabago. Director, before we begin, I'd like to request if you could introduce members of your staff, of your team, and you may go ahead and proceed to any opening statements you may wish to share with the committee. Floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and members of this Ways and Means Committee. My name is Anthony T. Beneventi, Secretary for the Department of Lands and Natural Resources. I have here with me the directors of the divisions. I have to my right Mr. Jaco Gomoro, Director for the Division of Agriculture. Closest to my right is Acting Director for Parks and Recreation, Mr. Raymond Sablan. To my left, my far left, the also with us is Dr. De La Cruz, our state veterinarian, CNMI state veterinarian. And next to him is the Director of Land Registration and Survey, Mr. Joaquin Songsong. And to my left is the Director of Fish and Wildlife, Mr. Manny Pangilinan. Thank you, Mr. Chair. This team of mine under the department is here ready to address the concerns of our budget for FY 2022, and we look forward for a better new funding assistance or funding grants or budget that would help us with our department to continue our role in managing and operating the resources within the islands that it's rightly needed. Believe me, it's been a while that our department is almost the mere neglected department for so many years. And with that, we feel that it's about time maybe with all this money that's here. I hope that you provide us that resources of funds that we need to better address our operations, be it in the agriculture, the division of parks, fish and wildlife, land registration, our animal health, and also within the main office of DLNR. With that said, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair and members of this body. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Secretary. And joining us today is Congresswoman Christina Sablan, behind you. Before I open the floor for questions, Mr. Secretary, I'd invite if there are areas where you foresee unmet needs, please go ahead and share with us today. I understand that your budget proposal was $853,000 and some, and the governor's proposal increased that by for a total of $3.9 million, which is similar to the 2019 fiscal year budget. So, thought I'd just point that out. Members, if you have any questions, floor is open. Chair recognizes Congressman Lizama.
Thank you, Vice Chairman, and welcome, Chairman, from DLNR. My concern, is community or environmental um, issues in our communities. We do have, you do have Parks and Recs. And who handles that, Parks and Recs? Director, sir. Thank you, Mr. Sablan. We've noticed before that many of these employees of yours using, and I hope the budget that you're receiving that's coming to you will help them at least purchase a vehicle, suitable vehicle to put their equipment on the vehicles, and as well as the personnel. It was on the paper once before, and it just doesn't look good for your department or division. So with this, would that help you with the to cover that issue situation, or you need more?
Can I make a comment on that? Yes, thank you, Congressman, on that. I know for, again, the longest time, we've sat down with the director and all the directors addressing their needs. Parks and Rec truly is an essential and critical role of this, our environmental managing, maintaining, and beautifying our natural beaches and inland parks and tourist sites as well. They have a very hectic job with them, and providing that safety, and I consider that as a safety concern for operating the equipment, so maintaining and ensuring that their transportation from one end to the other end is very critical. I do, if I'm corrected, in terms of each prospective divisions, I have not truly been granted through OMB the exact number for each prospective divisions, and I apologize for that. I'm working with OMB, and knowing that you mentioned, Mr. Chair, in terms of 3.9, wow, that's something that I'm really happy, but I look more in a sense that we can justify maybe some more in a sense that might be more helpful to our needs. But again, we hope that Parks and Rec is granted that almost 1.4 to 1.5 in that respect of their needs, and providing that assurance that whatever it is that you mentioned, Congressman Lizama, I think that would subsidize the equipments and the vehicles that would provide a better safety travel for the staff and the equipment on board when they go to a job site. So I hope that that a budget is granted, and with that we can take care of that under Parks and Recreation. Is that okay? No?
Thank you. I hear
Floor
that.
is still. Oh, you okay? Thank you very much, Congressman Lizama. Floor is still open, members. Okay, Congresswoman Babauta.
Good afternoon and welcome, DLNR team. Thank you for making time, Secretary Benventi and directors for being here. It has been a pleasure working with your department and your staff for the past couple of months, serving as chair of the Natural Resources Committee. So please know that my office, our committee, is always ready to support DLNR in your mission to conserve our natural resources that really help preserve our culture, right? And then promote sustainability for our people in the CNMI. So let's go over some of your numbers. It seems here, and I'm very happy to see that the NOPs, the number of positions, will be increasing for DLNR. It seems here your department's request was 50 NOPs, and then the governor's proposal is at 70. So we do see here that Fish and Wildlife will see an increase of 10 personnel. Saipan Land Registration, increase of 7 personnel. Soil and Water, 1, from 0 to 1. So, that's a question that I will come back to. And then the Secretary of DLNR's office, an increase of 2. However, Saipan Parks and Recreations will still remain at 0. So can you please share with us why that is so? The department did not make a request for NOPs under Parks and Recs, and the governor's office responded accordingly and kept it at 0. I know that we are expecting a July 1st budget revision, and I hope to see some revisions with that one. But can you help us understand why that number is at 0 for Parks and Recs? It is a very important department or division for our island. Thank you, Secretary.
No problem. Thank you for that question. Yes, I believe that the revise has not come to your table yet, but I would like to share that my request on working with the OMB is up to 101 position. And with that 101, we have a total of, for the main office, the LNR main office, we will have a total of 9. The Division of Agriculture will have a total of 20, and exiting the 17 quarantine staff to Division of Custom and Quarantine. And for Fish and Wildlife, we'll have a total of 14. And then for the Parks and Recreation, we have 42, Chairwoman. And this is, again, in return from public land back to the LNR. And these actions are already processed. It's all been cleared at OMB. I guess it's not showing in your books, but they're back to the LNR. And they're very happy that they're back to, because they were not comfortable at DPL. So anyway, they're back and they're so happy again to be with the LNR. So we've got Parks and Rec, and then Soil and Water. Instead of 1, I know that's coming back from all the furloughs and all that, but I added 1 FTE addition to make it 2. And then for the land registration, a total of 14 staff will be there. Total of 101, what was the number that was given to me by OMB to follow as a total number FTE going back to FY 2019. Being that, normally it was more or less almost 150, including the 17 quarantine, but now that they're out, we less that. So we were given a number of 101 FTE. But, we will be happy if you can increase that to better help our other divisions that are in need for some positions that they require. But again, this is something that we got to work, and I know I don't want to exceed so much, but again, I'm with you. I'm here with you, and I'm looking forward to all the support that you can to the department and to better again our obligations in managing this operation. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Secretary. That's very reassuring to hear that that you are going to be receiving well above your request for personnel for DLNR and 101. Can you help us understand why just 2 personnel for Saipan soil and water conservation is adequate?
Yes, for the Saipan and Northern Islands New Soil and Water Conservation District, it's just basically to assist within the Cagman Farm Plot new water new distributions and managing and operating the obligations to work hand in hand with NRCS. So with that, we have one administrative assistant that does very minimal work in terms of working with the Division of Agriculture to help within the Cagman Farm Plots. So that's the role of that new Soil and Water Conservation District section, and providing an additional employee to help within the monitoring of the water wells and water lines within the farm plot to accommodate more assistance, because our administrative assistant is one of a nice lady working, but we need and also a manpower to accommodate the reports and provide these informations to the division or to the department in terms of what's running, what's operated, how many farm plots are consuming so much water and all that.
Okay.
So that is our role.
So 1 admin assistant, and what is the other
The
position?
new position will be an agriculture field technician.
And I'm glad to hear that they will be assisting our farmers in Cagman. How about our other farmers throughout the island of Saipan?
Well, we do have a role also as well and providing assistance. That falls in line with the Division of Agriculture, which they do provide assistance in terms of equipment services and other means of providing whatever plants that they need in terms of seedlings, which their office has generated federal grants to accommodate the other farmers, be it on private land or within the Cagman farm plots.
Okay, so resources from the Division of Agriculture is also there to assist our farmers,
Yes.
let's say in Marpi area, right?
Yes.
And we are also met with challenges in regards to accessibility to water in Marpi as well. And we know there's many farmers really throughout Saipan. So thank you for just helping me better understand the Soil and Water Conservation Division and how they assist our farmers. Just being mindful of time, Mr. Chair, I will yield for now. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Congresswoman Babaltap. Before I continue, just to clarify, currently the budget in front of us allows you 70 FTEs, but you are requesting for 101, which would be an increase of 31. Okay, and you were reading off divisions that need those FTEs. Would you be able to provide perhaps the committee that list?
Yes, we did submit that to OMB, Chairman, and we do, have a copy of the numbers of FTEs provided to the budget. So with these numbers, it's more just the local FTE that we have presently coming back from furloughs and returning back to their regular duties. So we have the total listing of each divisions and the department. So if you do want to reference on this that we submit to OMB, I know that they have not provided to you, but this mere comes to the total of 101 FTEs that's provided.
Yeah, that would aid the committee when we deliberate on the budget, and then when it comes to DLNR, to entertain where to place the 30 additional to 31 FTEs. Sarge, would you be able to just make a quick copy of the documents? Members, the floor is still open. Congresswoman Christina Sablan, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and welcome to the DLNR team, Mr. Secretary, and thank you to the directors for being here. My first question has to do with the Division of Fish and Wildlife. It's our understanding that the officers may feel like they need more support, more resources. There's been, some feedback that we've received just from town hall meetings and, other engagements in the community that that DFW enforcement in particular needs more support, whether it's NOPs or more enforcement officers or uniforms or even water, drinking water in their division, and just more funding generally to support the work that they do. And I wanted to ask if, to what extent are the needs of DFW enforcement especially addressed in this current budget submission?
Thank you, Congresswoman. I'm glad that you asked that question, because although everybody thinks that Fish and Wildlife has a lot of money, that is true in a sense. But those fundings that we receive are mostly for research, and there's minimal money that goes for enforcement because it's very difficult to get federal grants that will pay for enforcement. And if you get federal grants that will pay for enforcement, it will pay for specific type of enforcement activities. And it will only cover enforcement activities that entails federal needs, not local needs. So you cannot use that federal money that we're receiving to conduct local enforcement matters. So the funding that we receive from federal grants on enforcement, it's a cooperative agreement called a Joint Enforcement Agreement with the NOAA. Okay, we receive money roughly about $150,000 to $180 on a normal environment. I use the word normal because we have been operating in an abnormal environment since the COVID. Okay, so since the COVID, my grant from the joint enforcement agreement has dropped from 189 to $50,000. That is because we are unable to provide the enforcement staff out there because of the staff being furloughed. Okay, I understand how the federal government thinks. If you don't have the capacity to implement the project, so why should I give you the money to implement the project? So I'm glad that the FTEs were returned for us for those or NOP returned from to us those that are furloughed. Okay, we only had about three staff that were retained from my 10 enforcement staff from the furlough. So now that we are back into full capacity, I'm hoping that we will get back our money up to 100,000 or above more this year when we submit our grant proposal. But bear in mind, okay, I'll go back to answering your question. When we get those money from the JEA, that will only cover for joint enforcement agreements, enforcement activities. That would be a marine patrol and mostly dockside patrol, where we only patrol for endangered species, or Marine Mammal Protection Act, or and particularly those are the two things that we will be enforcing under that funding. So when we want to enforce for poaching and for sanctuary violations or for fruit bats and that, we cannot use the joint enforcement agreement to do that. So yes, as the secretary mentioned, the LNR has been long neglected, and I support him in saying that. The LNR has been long neglected in our budget needs. Okay, and I'm glad that he mentioned that, because now is the time, and he asked that, and I ask also in support of what is requesting, that it's the time to open your hand to give us this, to grant us the funding request that the secretary is requesting. Okay.
I'm sorry to interrupt, Director, but I'm glad that you explained that part, that we can't use these federal joint enforcement agreement funds for certain other operations of the enforcement. Right?
That is true.
So for monitoring our marine sanctuaries or doing enforcement activities there, you only have to rely on local funds, right?
For monitoring of marine sanctuary and marine enforcement, we can rely on the joint enforcement agreement funds. Okay, for monitoring of terrestrial enforcement, okay, like enforcing for violations of permitted permitted or regulated species like sambadeers, coconut crabs, or also for endangered species like fruit bats, we cannot use the JEA money. So the secretary graciously gave Fish and Wildlife about $20,000 from I don't know where he got the money, but he gave me that $20,000 now.
Where did the money come from?
So
Okay.
so anyway, I can use that to help out with enforcement. Enforcement, and then he asked me yesterday, do I need more on my budget? Say $10,000 will help me more, earn those $10,000 on for enforcement.
Yeah.
Okay, so the federal grants is not really paying a lot of operation costs for DFW, because we managed to do cost allocation to cover the costs for electricity and other telephones and all those things. So for the federal grants, so the local does not pay much.
So
but we still got to pay the enforcement cost.
Yeah, and
when
that's
it comes
what I wanted
to
to ask you. I'm sorry, my time is limited, so I just want to get to my main question, which is the $9,100 proposed for Fish and Wildlife operations, that's combined from the governor's proposal and ARPA for this upcoming fiscal year, is that enough for you?
No, it's not enough. I think the secretary will be resubmitting another additional funding to you guys that would spell out to almost $27,000.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you for that. And then my next question has to do with the Susupi Lake Wildlife Park Plan. So under Public Law 2091, DLNR was mandated under that law back in February 2019 to provide a development plan for Susupi Lake within 12 months of enactment. And that was February 2019. So the plan would have been due in February 2020. And I know that there was a draft that the former Parks and Rec director had developed. I had submitted comments, but what is the status of that? And where are we with developing that plan?
Thank you for that question, Reptina. I know that on board prior to Vic being leaving, we were working on that program to establish that new public law. And to the front line on that is the regulation to be in place first. And he was working on the regulation and proposing that to how we can better address what needs to be done and the project plan of that. As you know, that's going to be a major issue in regards to the proposed development plan due to wildlife. And that would be somewhat in the endangered species issues and even the threatened species as well. So we have to incorporate both ways and working with the federal regulations on this matter. So it's time consuming, but I know that we'll be continue to try and address that, hopefully get the regulation needed and then prepare how we can establish that regulation to get together with the federals, and then from there move on to initiate a design plan to provide maybe for recreational and other sort of amusement for our community.
So
And
who's working on that plan right now?
not right now. There's nobody working on that. No, Rep.
Okay. And is it the department's intention to resume work on that plan in this upcoming fiscal year? And is that included in the budget?
If that's so much, I believe we will move forward on that one.
Is that included in your budget?
Not right now, but eventually, hopefully, if you see that, then that's the case again. We appreciate, that line of assistance to help us out. Hopefully, we can get something done within the year 2022
Sure.
and move on and do something to the Susupi Park.
Okay.
Susupi Lake.
Thank you for that. So,
Thank
so we should be expecting that in your revised budget submission.
Yes.
Correct. Okay. Thank you. And then my final question is if you could provide us updates on the plans for Smiling Cove Marina. Are you submitting any requests for funding for Smiling and Otter Cove Marina, right? Is that included in your request for ARPA funding? What's the plan for that? Where are we with improving that area?
Yes, we have, the governor's requested a infrastructure new proposed development plan. So I've submitted around $24 million for the Outer Cove and a mere $5 million for the Smiling Cove Marina to replace the existing revetment. That revetment is over, I think, 25 years already or more, and we need to replace that. As you know, there's a lot of wear and tear. I'm glad that the American Memorial Park Ranger is working with us to repair that damage when you're going off on the Outer Cove. There's two portions of that's damaged, and they're fixing that, or they're making the repair with their own federal money, and that's from the tip of that damage all the way to almost near the Transcend dock, and then we'll take the manage in replacing the entire revetment inside the Smiling Cove Marina, and we put $5 million. We did submit that in this CDBG, but we got denied. We were supposedly saying that we got the grant for that $4 million, but we revised it and also we're told that it was denied. But we submitted to the governor's proposal, and we hope that this project would actually be developed, because the Outer Cove is in desperate need of repair, and I need to actually remove all that concrete. But the most priority that we've sat down with the Army Corps of Engineers when they were here was the importance of doing a breakwater. And that's where the cost of the money, the breakwater is somewhere around 16 to 20 million. And then the entire new floating dock facility will be about $1 million. and then the revetment to really protect our erosions of those damage surrounding the outer cove will be about 3 million. So again, somewhere in around 24 million was the complete, my proposal for the overall new construction or, fixer-upper of the outer cove marina. 20 million for the breakwater, 1 million for a brand new floating dock marina, and remove all those concrete that's already a what they call a unsafe structure under DPW, which we cease any operations, commercial activity, and then to do the revetment in that outer cove is about 3 million. So that 24 million was our proposal.
Thank you for that. And to clarify, is that proposal for money under ARPA or in the next infrastructure?
The next
the next
infrastructure money
Okay.
that was proposed in the
Thank you.
houses.
Thank you for that. I yield, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much, Congresswoman Sablan. Floor is still open. Congresswoman Staffler, please.
Thank you, Vice Chair. And thank you all for joining us this afternoon. So I wanted to ask about training. Do you, in any of the departments, require or provide training for your staff?
I made it in a sense to each division directors to foresee what is needed under the division's need. And if so be it, no, Congresswoman, I believe that might be possible if we can allow that.
I guess, any kind of training that you'd need, I didn't see any training budgeted, I think, in any one of them, unless I followed the line wrong, because, it's hard to read the line sometimes. But if you are, if you need training, if your people need training, please make sure you include that for your budget's resubmission. I was curious about the land registration office. What kind of computer system keeps our land data at this time? Like, is it in a computer or is it all paper? It's all paper. Oh, is it not turning on? Maybe push this thingy in the back. Yeah, just push it mine. There you go.
It's a computer system.
So, how old are those computers?
They're quite old, and we were actually discussing that with the secretary, and we need the updated system to deal with all these documents that.
And with that, like with an increase of NOPAs, what will the people there do? Like,
Right.
what will the additional workers? What will they do?
We need like computer operators. That's the most priority that we need in that.
So I'd like
Office.
to suggest that you include more computers in your budget for that particular office,
Yes.
because there was nothing budgeted for a computer system, unless that's something else, somewhere else.
For so many years, and just to answer your question, yes, I did request to budget, not to include the all others, but for all the divisions, I've worked there, all others. For land registration and survey, I've increased their budget to almost 150. Was that more than 150?
Yes.
And that
Yeah.
the 100,000 is to digitize the maps. I want to contract it out and digitize. We got to make sure those maps, because if something happens and we need those maps to be digitized. And so I'm going to work on a contract and contract that out to digitize and at the same time, get all the printers. We're right now, for every copies of those maps, we got to bring it to quick print. And then, why can't we do it on ourselves and get that equipment?
Yeah.
I hear you, and it's just because we've never got so many budget. But I want this to happen. I want all these documents, those maps, that these land documents or maps from Japanese are well protected, and by digitizing them and making sure we have that, so we would not lose this track of land area.
You have a treasure trove, and
Very
I
true.
worry about the
Yes.
safety. I was curious, what kind of security, like if somebody were to do research, do you have a staff that sits with them so that nothing goes missing?
We have the bulk room,
Right.
that
Yes.
secures the document.
No, but the staff will work with the individual or the landowners to provide those documents. And again, those documents are almost folders that are I can say maybe 40, 50 years old.
Yeah.
And we gotta, again, digitize those and make sure, because we can just, make sure and computerize them and put them in the system, because when you're looking for that document, it's all either scanned and then digitized. So you won't have to go and see what's missing and whatever. But we're gonna try and fix it on this next fiscal
I
year.
wonder, I mean, I know that you already get a lot of federal grants, which is why maybe you are underfunded locally, right? But I wonder if there would be grants for that kind of thing. I would hope so.
There was at one point a 45,000 only, and that was to try and digitize. But the amount of money when they did the contract exceeded
Yeah.
over 100,000. So that's why now I'm placing at least over 100,000 to contract this, and then the rest of the money will be for computer services and the all others they need within the land registration survey no division. So
Thank you.
hopefully, please help us on our needs. Thank you.
I think it's very important to invest in digitizing and
Yes,
keeping
yes.
our systems as up to date as possible
Yes.
for, the posterity
Yeah.
of research, but also knowing the history of all of that. So I definitely support that. Another question, I was curious about Fish and Wildlife with respect to this upcoming derby. Is this something that is affecting your budget currently? No? Are you sending?
No, Fish and Wildlife, when it comes to Derby, is funded by federal funds. So we have no problem accommodating or helping out with the Derby. So the answer is no.
Okay, thank you.
Just for information,
Yes.
there's funding under the federal grants that provides for data section, for fisheries section, and all the other wildlife. So they come into that play. They're budgeted for that annual. All these sanctions derby, we call sanctions derby on a yearly, the Mahi Derby, the Wahoo Derby, the international, whatever. So they're all sanctions to accommodate, which is budgeted under federal grants to Fish and Wildlife to provide that service.
I guess I'm speaking specifically about the upcoming derby in the north, just because it might, require more gasoline and more resources to accommodate that plan. So I wondered if that was something, because it
Oh, that
wasn't part of
derby.
that
No.
derby. That's the derby I'm
Yeah.
talking about.
That Derby is not
It's not part of your plan?
it's not part of my plan.
Okay. Just curious. So I have another kind of question related to, because, you are federally funded in a lot of those ways. So like, I know that you probably have a boat that's federally funded, and you can't do local enforcement with federally funded things. So like, for example, if for local enforcement, do you need a boat that is funded locally only, or could you use the federal boat to enforce local issues?
Well, like you said, that federal funded boat is to utilize for data purposes. With the derby being held, I can take his staff under the federal grant, and they will accommodate to get the data information of all these fish that will be caught on the derby there. So that boat will be used for that specific, and that's in line of the grant agreement under the MCP agreement with the council and the CNMI. So the reason for going out there, I would take his data staff and fisheries to make sure the collections and all the data's information as what kind of fish, where did they catch it, how deep the water, and all that information will be collected back here for data purposes to be submitted.
Excellent.
But for using an enforcement boat that is paid or purchased under federal grants, that is covered by our grant agreement to enforce for Marine Patrol to make sure on recreational head boats and all those things. So we do enforce those out there.
Okay. Thank you, I yield.
Thank you very much, Congresswoman Staffler. Chair recognizes Congresswoman Selena Babalta.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good afternoon and welcome, everybody. I have a lot of questions. First off, it is interesting to note that your department's budget allocates 90% to personnel and only 4% for operations. And that, to me, if as a manager, is a very lopsided budget allocation. So I hope you guys take a look at that. Secondly, I've heard both of you, Director Manny Pangilinan and Secretary Don Beneventi, say that DLNR has long been neglected. The legislature operates within what the governor submits. And I understand every department comes up here and asks for more money, more personnel. In the last 3 years alone, the executive branch has overbloated the government by 152%. So it is alarming that DLNR still does not have the personnel they need. And I suggest you check with the executive branch primarily, first of all, regarding that situation. I have a concern with respect to a project in DLNR, and I've spoken to the secretary. I haven't spoken to the director of Fish and Wildlife. Secretary, you heard me today at the groundbreaking, expressing my frustrations. I have been following up on a letter on behalf of the Department of Public Works with respect to Nafton Road, Obzan. It is a project, I just looked it up on the internet. It is a project that has been going on for the last 3 years, 2018. And according to our meeting with DPW, all they need is a letter from Division of Fish and Wildlife. The project is ready to be bid out. They have the funds. Thankfully, Federal Highway agreed to fund that project. And all they need is a template letter from DLNR, Fish and Wildlife, with calculations, of course, involved for DPW to purchase the credits for that SUMBA credits. I've been following up for 2 weeks and I keep getting, I'm busy. I don't know what's going on. I think it's time for action. It's a template letter. It shouldn't be too difficult to produce. If you need help, my staff can type it out. So that's one thing. I would like to follow up on the status of that project.
I promised you, new Congresswoman, and I just talked to the director. That letter should be on my desk when I return from this meeting. So bear in mind that I will scan it and forward it to you as soon as possible. But in your reference to that new earlier question, we've tried our best. We've tried our best. We've tried our best. We've gone to request, for assistance, and whatever it is almost you're the last of the resort. So whatever amount is given to majority of other agencies, it's the remaining amount of either this amount, that's yours, DLNR, and take it or leave it. So now coming here where I don't see, we're here now in front of you, and we're seeking whatever it is that, support us on our needs. Because yes, we truly been, so much of the manpower, and it is paying manpower, not doing so much because of operations. That's very minimal. But if we have operations for all others, then this manpower will be working, because you have the manpower to go out and do the resources, because we have the fundings to do the operation. But if we have the manpower and the fundings for operations are a mere 8,000, 10,000, 2,000, then we can't go out. We're just getting paid for less, but give us the money for all others. And believe me, we're out there working and doing the job because we got money for operations.
If I may interject, since you brought up Fish and Wildlife. So, the permitting in Fish and Wildlife is often slow because I'm the only person who's writing the permit. Okay, we don't have any.
And why is that so?
Hold on,
Don't you have?
I will answer. I will get to
Don't
that.
you have staff to
I will
help
get
you?
to that, Congresswoman.
Thank you.
Okay. The federal grants that we're receiving is an unallowable cost for my staff to be writing the permit. So we don't have any local biologists or local staff that writes that permits. From several years ago, I've been always asking to be funded for a biologist. Here's the secretary. I asked him yesterday too, should I ask for another FTE aside from the 14 for an additional 1 FTE to pay for a full-time biologist, so that biologist can help me write the permit and help out with the permitting process on that. So if you can imagine, you know, aside from all my other works, and I'm the one who has to write also the permit, that is a lot of work being imposed on the director. So I am not trying to make here an excuse, but I'm trying to balance everything there, that prioritize which one is most important. You know, submitting a grant proposal, deadlines on the grant reports, and dealing with budget issues, or personal matters, and permits, and all those things. I have to juggle with all those things to make the priority ends meet. So yes, it will help the Division of Fish and Wildlife if you can grant for another FTE to pay for a full-time biologist that is paid locally, so that they can help out with the permitting process.
Thank you. In your request, Mr. Secretary, of the 20 additional FTEs, right? Is that what you're asking for? Or from 90 to, or 70 to 110?
101.
I mean, 101?
Yeah.
Does that include the biologists that the Fish and Wildlife needs?
Well, we were given a limit to 101 from OMB, and with one additional just makes 102. So if we can be granted a wildlife biologist under local funds, then we would be just an increasing one position. But again, the salary is somewhere in that range of around 45,000 to
So
be.
the FTE you are asking the legislature to increase your department does not include a biologist.
No. So the 101 basically has additional FTEs, because that's the number we're given for DLNR for FY 2022.
But why would you not include a biologist?
Well, since we're given 101, you know, I want to stick with 101. But again, the added one position is something that I'm here now to seek your approval and support, and grant us 102, and they makes it under Fish and Wildlife, under the Division of Fish and Wildlife, or under the Secretary's office. You can put a wildlife biologist, and the salary we range around 45,000 per annum, plus fringe benefit.
Okay, I'll just make one last comment,
Okay.
alluding to that. You're requesting for additional FTEs that does not include a marine biologist or just a regular biologist? Wildlife biologist. And then you earlier said that you have the manpower, but do not have the operation funding. So you have all this manpower, but they can't go out and work because there's no operations for funding. I think that's what I understood you to say.
True.
Seems
So what I'm
seems
saying-
personnel cost is just very high for work that's not there because the operation funding is not there. So it doesn't make sense to keep hiring and they don't have work.
Well, we haven't submit, Congresswoman, our all others budget to the OMB yet. We
Oh.
will. Eventually, we hope to, given that number that the chairman mentioned of 3.9, we're going to look at the all others to include if that's in there. Because for each division, I have at Division of Agriculture, I'm looking at an all other of around 89,000 for their all other budget. For Parks and Recreation, I'm looking at a 377 for their annual one all others budget. For Fish and Wildlife, I'm looking at 25,000 for their all others. They have federal, but I'm granting them federal, also local, all others. but they have a lot in federal. But you know that 25 will be a mere helpful for what they need to repair local, to do some local issues or local new. And then for land registration, over $150,000 that I need for their operation and their all others. And also with the state veterinarian no, under animal health, I include that under the main office, the LNR main office, to assist them in their all others.
Thank you. My concern with the Naftan Road is that it will be further delayed because DPW has a deadline of the end of June to send that project out for bidding because it is mating season for some of the wildlife that live in that area. So it will further delay the project until next fiscal year, at least because of the mating season of the wildlife that live in that area. So that is why I was trying to push that letter out to see if we can get that project out for bid. It is bid ready. The funds are there. My next question is to Mr. Ogumoro. You handle, I'm sorry, sir, what do you handle at DLN? Agriculture, but you also work with fisheries or a board member at Western Fisheries. Can you explain to the Ways and Means Committee exactly what your department entails, the obligations, responsibilities, and funding needs for? Yes. What exactly do you guys do in terms of agriculture?
Director Ogumoro, if you may turn on your mic, please. Thank you.
Sorry about that. Well, we do several things to help the farmers here in the Commonwealth. And these several things includes local and federal programs. We're lucky to get adequate funding from the federal government to support the needs of our farmers. We have the agriculture farm plot in Cagman. This farm plot consists of 48 farm plots. It's government owned. It has its own irrigation system. And if you recall, our secretary here pointed out about the additional position for the Soil and Water Conservation Office. That position will be assigned to manage, or rather to take care of this irrigation system. The whole farm plot area consists of is made up of about 48,000 square meters. Each farm plot is about 10,000 square meters. That is a big farm plot for individual farmers, and so they tried out. They're trying their very best to grow the crops for themselves and for our needs out in our community, and so they need all kinds of funding. And so some of these federal funds goes toward assisting them in getting seeds, hose, drip hose, tractor services, which includes several activities, including mowing, rotavating, and bedding to prepare the soil before they plant whatever they want to plant. That's one type of service. The other one is also federal funding, and this is the forestry program. You've probably heard about forestry because there's so many people out there, including farmers, not just limited to farmers, who would request plans, either for their office, outside their homes, or at their farms, or at public places like micro beach. sometimes you see our staff there with community volunteers planting trees to beautify our CNMI. That's another service that we provide. There's also the specialty crop program. This is a program that is about $250,000 per year that we bring in. It's good for 3 years, but every time we bring in this money, we divide it up into several projects, which we can call community project, school project, and so forth and so on. These projects are designed to help students under the school program learn how to plan, from preparing the soil to harvesting and selling the crops. These activities are done at the school level. All we're doing is just providing the support, the backup, if you will, to ensure that the project succeeds and our kids learn how to grow, because to be honest with you, it's beginning to be very difficult to see our own farmers farm out there. Right after they took away I think our federal immigration, most of the helpers left the island. And as a result, we do not have a lot of farmers. And so that's the whole reason why we're kind of invigorating our efforts into these activities to ensure that we do have food security here in our Commonwealth. And speaking about food security, there's also another program called Mini Grant Food Security Program. This one is about $130,000. We just received the approval for our FY20. We've made the announcement. We're waiting for applicants to apply so we can help them out, give them money to do their thing. This program is designed for two things. One, to ensure that the farmer or a rancher increase their number of crops, increase their number of cattle, for instance, and at the same time to ensure that this produce and livestock are quality. That's the whole requirement. And if they can convince the reviewers, they'll be very happy, because individual applicant will get $5,000. Organization that apply and is eligible will get up to $10,000. So that is also another. Again, all these things are are part of our effort to help the farmers, and not just farmers, as I mentioned earlier, even the students, people in the community, even private organization, non-profit organization, Jotun Kizu Library, for instance, always request, and even other government offices, especially before the Arbor Day. That's when the telephones will be ringing off the hook. They want flowers, so when people go to their offices, they will see flowers, they'll see plants inside and outside the offices, and that's good. That's good, and we encourage them that, hey, we'll show you the trick on how to take care of this thing, and hopefully you take care so that we can spend our time next time to help somebody else. Because we're also limited in our, as far as the staff is concerned. We also have, this is again another federal program, the Zero Waste Project. And the whole purpose of this is to bring in a wood chipper, so that instead of our community cutting down trees outside their house or at the farms and bringing them over to Marpi landfill, they'll call us and we'll go there to their place and we'll chip this wood for farmers and gardeners and anybody else who need mulching. So that's also something that we're going to be doing Yeah, like the secretary said, we're in need of funding, but we're lucky that as far as DOA is concerned, lucky that we're managing to bring in a lot of federal funds for our all others in need.
Thank you, Mr. Ogumoro. I just have two more questions, Mr. Chairman, if you would allow me.
Floor is still yours.
Thank you. My next question is to Parks and Rec, Mr. Sablon. Is that correct? I'm very concerned about the public restrooms in our parks and beaches. It seems we have bathrooms that we can't use on a Sunday when we take our families for picnics at the beach. And that has been a long-standing problem here in Saipan. And can you please elaborate what your plans are, if any, to revitalize or rehabilitate these public restrooms, and how you could possibly sustain it in your, we're talking about budget. What is in your budget? What do you need in your budget that we can help you with to have these public restrooms be utilized by those who go for picnics or,
Yes,
in our beaches?
thank you for that. The thing of the restrooms is they're old, and also the water supply was not that time. Kilili restroom was the water was run. It was on low pressure. The water was on not the consistent 24-hour service, so and then was shut. They cut the line by CUC. So
Why would they do that? Is it because of non-payment? Who's responsible
because
for paying for these utilities?
that time it was it's the I'm not sure if it was Parks and Rec that was paying, but that during that time, yeah, all billings now they go straight to finance, submit it for payment. And also they also mentioned the reason why they cut the Kilili water line is that it was so close to the road when the time they were trying to construct that pathway, the Farlam Tenorio pathway, all the way from the north to Kilili Beach.
Can I, I
Please.
was there as Parks and Recreation Director, and the Kilili Beach is really a good toilet. We've made renovations and renovations, but when CUC shut down, I think there was a dredging issues that was conducted with CUC, and eventually they hit the water line, they shut off. We tried to connect that, and similar what happened to Pau Pau, honestly, same thing. But eventually, even like Susupi Regional, Susupi, we just want to completely destroy that and build a new one. Because what transpired in Susupi is the elevation. They have the sewer line here near the road, and they built the toilet lower than the sewer line. So it's really, all of this is a wrongdoing. And we eventually had to shut down. You flush, it overflows, instead of flushing it, it overflows. So we shut down and completely do that. In all the other areas, and for mindful, we have the SCORP approved, the state outdoor recreational or the state comprehensive outdoor recreational plan. It's 2.4 million. It prioritized a lot of this new park enhancements, park infrastructures, Saipan Road and Tinian. So that's 2.4 million. It would really address this to accommodate all the needed facilities to be fully, adequately running. And we're thankful for that SCORP, that it's done. And eventually that money is sitting down waiting for the CNMI. So we're going to be working on prioritizing that project with the administration.
Thank you. Last question, Mr. Chairman. It goes to the Honorable Mr. Song Song. You handle the lands and registration.
Yes.
Land survey and registration. Can you explain to this committee how your division does not duplicate any function at the Department of Public Lands. We are trying to make our government be more efficient, and one way to do that is to eliminate duplication in our government. So can you please elaborate to
Actually,
us?
my division deal with Public Law 3-79, and DPO, I think, deals with 5+33 or. But anyways, we deal with 3-79, and that involved with land claims of all these pre-war properties that we're still dealing up to this present. That's the
What do you
reason.
mean by that?
It's a pre-war property. It's a private property that, most, like our people used to own this land before, like Japanese administration. And these claims still continue on to come in, and people are still claiming these lands. And we keep making, a determination of these land reviews, whether they really own it or it's a tough work to. But public land deals with public land. But us, like I said, 3-7, and besides that, we deal still with a survey in regards to dealing with all these private survey firm that, they bring in maps for review and approval, and that's how I deal with those reviews for all this map to be accurately reviewed before we approve it. We make sure that everything is accurate.
Thank you. I yield, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much, Congresswoman Balta. Floor is still open. More? Okay, I guess we'll go straight into second round. Chair recognizes Congresswoman Babalta Sheila.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And thank you very much for, just participating and engaging with all of our questions. And thank you, Rep. Balta, for bringing up the public restrooms. I just want to recognize Secretary Benavente and your team for being so willing to collaborate with the private sector, with my office on the Papao Beach restoration. We are almost there. We are almost there. Yes. And so I wanted to focus this line of questioning on Parks and Recreation. Seeing that the number of positions will increase for this division, can you help us understand what areas this division focuses on? What is considered a park and a recreational area? Part of this process, this budget process, has really allowed us to see that our departments and agencies really need assistance with clarifying roles and responsibilities. And so Parks and Recreations, DPW, Mayor's Office share very similar roles. Some divisions or agencies are more equipped than others. But for Parks and Recs, can you just briefly state what is considered a park and a recreational area? Or give us some examples is this all of our beaches? Yes? All of our beaches?
Yes.
Yes, and all of the tourist attraction areas in the north? Yes, and the south?
The south.
Or on the island? Yes.
All around.
So not the main road, nothing on the main
No.
road?
The beach road.
Beach
Mainly
road?
the beach road, and then the south heading north to Marpi.
And part of your duties include emptying the trash bins
Daily.
daily. Thank you for doing that.
Yes.
That also keeps our oceans protected.
Yeah.
And then the public restrooms. Will that also include maintenance of the public restrooms?
Yes, if they are in operational, then we'll do it daily.
Papao Beach will be operational. So
Pretty
in
soon.
addition, yes, pretty soon. Thank you, Director, for your help with that. So in addition to maintaining, the lawn care outside of the restroom, it will Parks and Recs also maintain the facilities inside, cleanliness, plumbing. Are these
Oh, yes,
all of these?
yeah, if any problems occur on the facility, then we'll take care of it. We come out and I'll definitely be the person to go out and assess the damage, do the estimate, then I'll assign the building maintenance section to pick up the materials that we need so we can just fix it right away.
Okay, because maintaining a public restroom is just a different role that really should be a different kind of position, if we're going to have these locations open. And so that brings me to cemeteries. Is that part of Parks and Recreation?
That is also within the Parks and Rec, but we've been discussing this, Rep Sheila, and we're hoping that we can contract this out. And we're pretty much in line with including this budget proposal in the DLNR main office, because I think it's best to allow that contract for burial service and the maintenance. If we can contract those areas, it'll be more simpler. Our guide will be, our process will be to identify the crates or the naftans as they sell. So we can identify where these areas and then pinpoint where to be the exact first initial burial to occur, and then one after the other. I know there's existing 2005 right there. So there's 2005 more to be constructed. And eventually, there's a lot of calls. When are we going to open? And it's really important right now that we want to open it as soon as possible. And
You're
provide
referring to the Marpi
public
Cemetery.
Yes.
Yes. Thank you very much. I'm very much in support of opening the Marpi Cemetery and limiting the number of burials happening at the Tanapag site, because we know it's already reaching capacity and we want to save any of the additional or remaining plots for the residents, the actual families in the village of Tanapag, and so I completely support that. Will that fall under a line item for Parks and Recreation then? If you are looking to contract out
That would
cemetery
fall under the
services?
LNR, under the main office.
So under the Secretary's budget?
Yes, under the Secretary's office.
And what is an appropriate amount to
I'm looking at
budget for?
120,000
120,000 for a
Yes.
contract to maintain all of our
just
cemeteries?
for 1 year though. And
Okay.
that's for maintenance, upkeeping, cleaning, and trimming, and all this that
Right.
we're going to initiate a scope of work.
Right,
But at the same time, it's separate from the burial services. So if someone is going through the process of the funeral services, the funeral services can contract the person or the company that would just lift up the cover and then burial, and take after that it's more the funeral service put it back. But it's just to remove the cover, bury the individual, and then cover it back to its normal, and then the funeral service either places the flower and also the tombstone to be placed, similar to what the Veterans Cemetery would look like in existence. So at least for 1 year, we're looking at maybe 120,000 for the entire coverage of maintenance and
and burial service
burial services.
for the cemeteries?
Yes.
Okay.
And we're working on the scope of work with CIP, Ms. Liz Balaja, to
Okay.
prepare for the scope of work, and we can
And our
start
public
it.
cemeteries include
That's for the public cemetery.
where? So that's Tanapag Public Cemetery?
No, just the Marpi, man.
Oh, just for Marpi?
Yes.
So this contractor won't be responsible for the other cemeteries
No.
on the island?
I
Okay.
really don't. We're not entitled for the public cemetery in Tanapak, and for maintaining, I think it's been DPW that's been doing that, or the mayor's office.
Mayor's office.
But Parks and Rec is thereby policy or regulation or established, and which we do have the regulation for the public cemetery in Marpi,
In Marpi, yes.
under the Parks and Rec. But the discussion between myself and OMB, Ms. Vicky, we're looking at contracting it out
Okay.
because.
Noted.
manpower.
Thank you very much. I think there's still some clarifying information that I would like to just discuss with you and your team because the cemeteries, period, are a very, well, highly visited locations for our communities. Every year, every month, we're always wondering who's in charge of trash collection, who's in charge of, helping maintain the area. When is Marpi Public Cemetery going to open? These are just questions we get all the time, and at least I do. And so I will work with you on that for sure. I definitely support it, and I also support contracting it out too to encourage small business growth in the Sinamay. Yes.
Congresswoman, can you go back to that public law when they implement the public cemetery to
To Marpi.
Leonard to maintain it? Because there's
Yes.
a language there that, when I was revealing to survey the boundary, I
Mhm.
see that there is a language there that indigent people shall not be charged at any cost.
Mm,
So how we gonna identify
see.
indigent people?
I see. Thank you. Thank you for that recommendation. I have reviewed the law because I have spoken to Secretary about this before, and so I will go back to that. Thank you. I yield, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much, Congresswoman Babauta. Floor is still open. Chair recognizes Congresswoman Yantmai.
Thank you, Vice Chair. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you. I learned a lot from everyone, so I came up with only one question, maybe. So, agriculture. No, in line with what Rep. Sheila was saying about similarities in roles. Agriculture, Mr. Ogumuro. Are you working together with DPL because they gave out like plots of land plots in the Objan area? Are you aware of that?
Yeah.
And will you be giving plants or whatever to those people there?
If they asked us. Yeah, I'm aware of that program. But I'm not sure exactly where they have these farms, but our farm, I think, is a lot better from what I've heard from people who have applied and were told to go look at the places where they were going to
Well,
farm.
I think it's very new. It's south of the quarry over there, and it's for everyone, not only the locals. So it's open to everyone. So are you allowed to give those seats to outsiders who are renting or leasing from DPL?
Sure.
Yes, question. Okay.
Sure,
And
we-
thank you. Next one. I'm the chair of commerce and tourism and cannabis. So, sir, you were saying that you take care of the pathway, cleaning of the pathway. So I'm trying to come up with this. I want to come up with this bill because I see people going there with walking their dogs. Then their dogs will, do their business either on the walkway or on the side. So since there is no law yet, I think about that. Do you guys scoop it up?
I will never encounter.
We need,
Not on the
yeah, and
pathway,
will
but
there
maybe
be?
on the grass.
Will you have enough enforcement, to go and run after those people running away from their pets' business?
Can I answer that? Because I run and I jog in the morning, and I see those pet owners walking on the pathway, and some of them I can honestly see they hold a plastic bag and a glove, and when they dog, they normally pull it on the side, but they still pick it up and they put it in the plastic, they take it home. Others just tend to just leave their dogs. But I've seen throughout the pathway from Garapan substation all the way to 13 Fishermen. I've seen so much of dog poops on the pathway. Not only that, please understand that there's some folks walking, and you can see those maybe that are considered squatters, and some folks are kind of jogging and enjoying their health, new enjoyment on the walkway. And there's these guys that are, their pants is almost falling down, no shirt, and they're walking also online. And you can see the joggers just kind of pull away on the side because they're walking in the pathway like they own it. And even me, when I'm jogging, I tell them, please, you move because you're not fit to, I don't know, but I've seen 2 or 3 walking and looking. They go under the picnic table looking for cigarette butts and all that, but they're there. They're there almost constantly every morning. And we have a lot of good new health joggers that wants to enjoy that new walkway, and they're constantly there. And we should implement this regulation and seize that. Also, the bikes, the bicycles are these are moving new equipments that are these people are driving, and you can walk, and if in an incident you hurt more of the jogger than the biker. And we just need to better protect those joggers.
I remember when the pathway just finished, and they said the bikers are supposed to be in the bike path, not on the walkway. So I don't know what happened. So we'll look into that, no? And another thing, there's a Samoan monument up in between Tanapak and the cemetery, Tanapak Village. Are you guys in charge of that, maintaining it, or someone else, MVA or?
First, when they installed that monument, they asked if we could just clear the front side. So those Samoan that lives here wants to install a monument. So maintaining it is strict. Probably they're doing it on their free time.
I don't
But
know
no-
about
no
that,
one
but
is
I was
assigned.
part of that, the installation of the monument, because I used to be a board member of the humanities. So yeah, we were the ones that were there, and then one day I went by and jungle all over. So I don't know who's supposed to take care of it.
Maybe when they have the chance, then they caught it, but we're not assigned to that area.
Ah, okay,
Is it on public land?
it is. It is on public.
Cemetery.
Yeah.
Where the Samoan used to live before.
Public land, yeah. I don't think it's.
Chair, we'll try and see what we can do and take a look at it and to
Thank you,
accommodate
because
your
we might be
request.
getting Samoan tourists and they might want to go there.
We'll
Thank
do our
you.
best to
Yes,
assist,
yes, thank you.
and provide also an annual maintenance if possible.
Yeah, thank
Thank
you
you.
very much. So you should include that in your budget. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Congresswoman Yang Mai. Chair recognizes Congresswoman Tina Solan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And a follow-up on the what your point earlier, Mr. Secretary, about digitizing DLNR's land maps and data. I think that's a wonderful idea, very timely, very needed. But I wanted to ask if there was any discussion in the department about doing like a comprehensive land information system that coordinates and digitizes and makes accessible both public and private land data, because I think my understanding is that there are some discrepancies between DLNR's and DPL's parcel data.
Yes.
And and we just need to kind of clean up the data and also make it accessible to the public, because it hinders everything from development projects to even like disaster recovery to not
Yeah.
have good data.
Yeah, that's true. But
Yeah.
that's what we're going to do once they digitize
Yeah.
all those documents. We're going to be providing like a computer system to the
Okay.
customer's service.
Okay.
So instead of, keep bringing out those documents, might as well we rest it. So we're going to be automating all those information
That's
into the
that's
computer
great. Is that
system.
something you're going to be contracting
Yes.
out? Okay.
Because especially all this, because like I said, public land only deals with public land.
Mhm.
But once public land becomes private, then we deal with all these private
Right.
land parcels.
So that project, are you working with
Ye-
public lands to coordinate all of the data so that we
Ye-
have like one land information
Yes.
system?
Well, we
Is
wanna
that possible?
We want to contract first
Contract it out.
our process in
Okay.
land registration, and we have that person. We have a local person, fully knowledgeable,
Okay.
and knows what needs to be done. So we're looking forward to that new rep,
Okay.
and believe me, this will be something special, protecting and ensuring that this land documents or whatever it is, that if something happens, and I hope it doesn't, but at least we have digitized that
Right.
protects all this land documents.
So the funding source for that, is that coming out of ARPA or your general fund budget is that for this coming budget
Yes,
cycle?
should be in the DLNR land registration under ARPA.
Got it. Okay. Thank you.
Mm.
Thank you for that. I yield.
Thank you very much, Congresswoman Sablan. Chair recognizes Congressman Camacho.
Thank you, Chair, and welcome everybody. Just got one quick question. I'm looking at who again is the Director for Parks and Recs, Mr. Sablan? That's you, right? Yeah,
Acting, sir.
acting. All right. So I'm looking at your chart here, pay chart, and great, I know that. And I see that the Director for Parks and Recs is vacant right now. Okay. So are you making his salary at the moment?
Not yet, sir.
Not yet. Yeah, I'm looking at 71,416 a year. That's a lot of money. I thought the secretary should be making that money, but I guess not. Nah, me neither. So I'm gonna have to start making complaints here. So anyway, I was just looking at that. There's a huge discrepancy in the salaries of all the directors here. You know, Parks and Recs making like $12,000 more than the secretary, and it's a vacant position. I think it should be the other way around, or make it all equal. Well, the other four are very close to the $200. No, the other one. Ayo, thank you. Something to think about.
Congressman, I'm here as a public servant. I'll do my best, whatever it is. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Congressman Camacho. Can we take two more members?
I don't know.
Chair recognizes Congressman Lizama.
Including
Thank you again, Vice Chair.
French.
Just a follow-up. We mentioned about Pau Pau, Kilili Beach. And of course, you're gonna have $2.4 million coming in to restructure or renovate most of these restrooms in our parks and everything. And I just want to be sure from you, is Cagman Marine Beach also included there? Because they're in bad shape right now.
Yeah.
So I just
love that.
want to hear that from you, so I don't have to go out and find people to help me, because I'm looking for somebody to help me right now.
You know, Congressman, I was there in Parks and Rec when we completed that 3 picnic shelter and that toilet facility, and it was jam-packed every weekend, reserved and all that. Everybody loved it. But eventually, after time, budget-wise, operation, funding-wise, and all the damages continuously occurred, and the homesteaders borrowing, they like to borrow the electrical fixtures. So we go there and put the electrical fixtures at the pavilion. Tomorrow, somebody borrow it, and they put it on the homestead. And that time, the homestead was picking up. So we got lost of fundings, and we couldn't replace it anymore. You know, that facility is an underground power system from one, and it connects to all the pavilions. It's really a nice, and I like to see that renovated, refurbished and everything, and including the toilet facility. Because when that facility was first built, honestly, it was really nice and beautiful. But somehow the public don't seem to to accept the proper usage. I mean, it's almost like, go ahead, there's somebody's gonna take care of it. But at least putting it back and providing somebody to properly maintain it, assign an individual and make sure he's there during that weekend and constantly monitor and ensure the public, hey, take care of it. I think we can better our chances to continue that new proper maintenance in the years to come. But I would like to get that new built and renovated or refurbished again in this coming year. Thank you.
I agree with you, Mr. Secretary. They just don't have the ownership. That's what I call it. They need to feel like they own it too. So whatever they do to it, they clean after their mess. But one thing, just because it's broken down, it's not main thing. Who does the surroundings? I mean, policing up the areas. There's trash, but that blown there by winds, even in at the Kalili Beach. But nobody, we will go down there on the weekend and we see trash pile in the corner. When the wind blows them and it just suck them in right into that one section. Who's responsible for that? I thought Parks and Rec should be going around, even though the building is unserviceable, but still they should maintain, at least there's a running tours will see that. That's eyesores for everybody. So that's my recommendation if you can, sir. Thank you. With the money that's coming to you, I'd like to see that happen. Thank you. And I heal back.
Thank you very much, Congressman Lizama. Do we take one more? Okay. Chair recognizes Congresswoman Volta.
Thank you, Chair. My last question is about your facilities. So I have been informed that the facilities throughout the department are in need of repair or in need of upgrade. Can you just speak to us about your facilities? We see here that your utilities, for each division, it's at zero. It's zero. There's no budget for utilities, only for the secretary's office at a little over 100,000. So can you just speak to the needs of each division? Where are they housed? Are they all located in Lower Base? If not, where exactly on the island are they located? What kind of shelter is there? And thank
Go
you.
ahead. Thank you, Chair. Rep Sheila, I swear. Let me go to DLNR main office where we have a ponding basin. And I think the EE and the TO are almost there already on that flooding area in front. And it's a major hazard of, concern. Could be a unhealth risk issue to our employees in DLNR main office. I really, constant rain, it just overflows on the next to our building. And I'm sad that, we've tried our best from BECQ to CUC to DPW to try and help out. I don't know what it means. So I'm just trying to, get some money and maybe move somewhere else. And I hope, that you can assist me with that. But in terms of Parks and Rec, it's totally damaged from U2. In terms of Agriculture Division, it's damaged from U2. In Animal Health, it's damaged from U2. Parks and Rec, main office and land registration is together in that building at Puerto Rico, at Lower Base. Fish and Wildlife is also there. There were slight damage from U2 and even our side, the north side. But from Parks and Rec, Animal Health Services, they're completely destroyed. So that's something that we have money approved by FEMA, but we're waiting the 10%, my share, local share. And once that's done, we can proceed and work with the public assistance and proceed to get those buildings constructed. And that will be added cost to our power, added cost to our water in terms of all others or for utilities, and ensuring that, we're hopeful that these facilities would be fully constructed by next year and, have these offices again available for Parks and Rec, Agriculture, and Animal Health Services as well.
Well, thank you for sharing that. It is not, I don't think any of us really like hearing that our, in any division or department, when, our public employees have to go to work and they are in a facility that's really unsafe and really does impact morale and therefore productivity, right? And that is expensive. And so, so thank you for sharing that. At least we're waiting on the local share. What is the amount? The 10%?
Well, we're looking at almost, 100,000. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, about 45,000 for Parks and Rec in the 10%, and 300 some thousand for the animal health services, about 36 for the animal health 10%, and about 27, 28 for the agriculture 10%. So yeah, somewhere around almost 100,000 of 10% cost share for the CNMI, for the local share.
Okay. Thank you, Secretary. I yield, Mr. Chairman. Thank you all for being here today. Thank you for entertaining our questions and helping us understand the budget of DLNR and the mission.
Our pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Congresswoman Babalta. I guess I'll just take the last one before I give you back the floor for closing remarks. What's the status of our Cagman watershed? Is the local funding of 1.2 million still there, or do we need to appropriate more money to it? Any updates from you, Mr. Secretary? Very much appreciated.
That's a good question, and honestly, even me, we're trying to find if the 2 million is still there in an account that was appropriated, and if so be it, because that is the understanding that we would address set aside that 2 million for the CNMI cost share for the Cagman watershed phase 7. Phase 7 is that, and that was like 1.2 million, if I'm not mistaken, for that project, and that's connecting the covered, almost like a runoff drainage, all the way to the existing, very close to the existing old quarry, which is at the very end of the south section new farm plot. So that's the project stance. We have not, the design has been separate amount from the NRCS. It's 450,000, but still the A&E design is being awaited. So once the A&E has been almost publicized throughout the US to who would prepare that design. So we're only waiting for the design for the phase 7 drainage or runoff area to the old new quarry. So it's more or less of the design for the covered, for that drainage.
Okay, very good.
And then from there.
Very good. I think we have a very good opportunity right now to bring the issue up because of the availability of ARPA funding and perhaps, the infrastructure money, if that should ever come to existence, and also because of the FEMA, I don't know if it's called a grant or loan of $88 million. So I think we need to revisit that.
I hope
very,
that
very important
a
project.
lot of those fundings can accommodate. We know that phase 7 is what we're at, phase 8, and then phase 9. Phase 8 is the most expensive one, Mr. Chairman, because that is the liner for the existing quarry that would secure almost 70 million of gallons of water from the runoff of all from Captoyo down to Cagman, and be in that storm water quarry, the old quarry. So that liner is going to cost somewhere around 9 million to what is expected under the Cagman watershed project. And then lastly, the pumping is from that new water reservoir to the existing water tank, the 100 gallon that's there. But we're also trying to fix that, work with CUC, and hopefully get a grant to repair that, because they say it's leaking. So it's best to try and fix it up and get it ready, and hopefully maybe start putting water supply in there for now and have it run to the farm plot where it's always sometimes shut off the water section for the south section farm plot, Cagman farm plot.
I'm sure that's why Director Gumor is tired of many phone calls going
Yeah.
to his office.
Right.
So, Mr. Secretary, your office and the depth and width of your responsibilities from the mountain to the ocean is huge. And we appreciate your time here to speak on behalf of the needs of your department. Please, any closing remarks from you?
Just a last statement to you. Please know that our goal too, and we've been constantly doing this, a new chairman being there on our side. I know that our role this year maybe might not happen, but coming next year, given the opportunity to DLNR, I want to have the best agriculture fair next year, and making sure that we provide, showing our community that, for what we are doing to the Cagman community, to the farm plots, to better improve our agriculture, be it the livestock of animals and the foods we produce, because these are healthy foods for our people, and it's time to eat healthy. So I want to, extend my sincere thank you to all of you, and make sure that, we try our better. We will do our best and make it work for our department to strive to provide you the services that you want us to see or want the people to see, and hopefully make it a better life for everybody, and our employees as well. And I thank the employees of the LNR who sticking with me, and I'm honestly grateful for all the work they've done, and I look forward to continue, doing my best as a secretary for the LNR. And I thank you to all the directors also as well for doing their best in the divisions. And we look forward to providing this role, the service to the public in the years to come. With that said, Chairman, thank you so much, and thank you all for listening to our needs. Thank you.
Thank you. This concludes our hearing today. Thank you, everyone. Have a good day.